In the spring winds of the 1870s Kansas prairie, the Bloody Benders became a name whispered with unease across the frontier. Their homestead stood along a lonely stretch of trail where weary travelers sought rest, a modest wooden structure surrounded by open grassland and the distant hum of wagon wheels. The family, quiet, private, and foreign to many nearby settlers, offered meals and lodging to those passing through. Inside, a red curtain divided the small room where guests ate from the area where the family slept. Beyond that curtain, something darker stirred. Travelers vanished along that route, their horses found wandering or sold off, their belongings turning up in the hands of strangers. At first, no one connected the disappearances. The plains were vast and unforgiving. People simply disappeared in those days. But when one man failed to return home and his friends traced his path to the Benders Inn, suspicion took root. The prairie, so open and endless, suddenly felt close and watchful. The air around that small cabin carried a stillness that locals would later recall as unnatural. It was the beginning of a story that blurred the line between frontier hardship and human horror, a tale that would linger long after the family themselves had vanished into legend. When neighbors finally approached the Bender property, they found an eerie calm. The door creaked open to reveal a table still set for a meal, plates half covered in dust, and no sign of life. The livestock had been left to wander, their troughs dry, their pens unlatched. A sour odor hung faintly in the air, one that deepened as men pried up loose boards in the floor. Beneath the cabin's foundation, and later in the orchard behind it, investigators uncovered shallow graves. The soil was heavy and wet from spring rain, clinging to boots and tools as shovels struck something solid. One by one, the bodies of travelers emerged, each showing signs of blunt force trauma and precise cuts. The discovery shocked the small community, where hospitality was often a matter of survival. Word spread quickly by horseback and telegraph, and soon the site was crowded with lawmen, settlers, and curious onlookers. The authorities documented what they could, sketching the scene and marking grave locations with wooden stakes. There were no photographs, only written descriptions and grim memory. By nightfall, lanterns flickered across the prairie, casting long shadows over the disturbed ground. The Benders themselves were nowhere to be found, their wagon gone, their possessions hastily abandoned. The emptiness of that house spoke louder than any confession could. The investigation that followed tested the limits of frontier justice. Lawmen from nearby towns organized search parties, riding for miles across open grass and creek beds, scanning every ridge and ravine for signs of the missing family. Without telephones or rail connections nearby, communication depended on riders carrying messages between settlements, each report delayed by days. Witnesses described seeing the Benders on the move, a wagon covered with canvas heading north, then vanishing into the borderlands. Officers examined the evidence left behind, bloodstains soaked into the floorboards, a hammer believed to be the weapon, and personal effects belonging to the victims. Locals gathered at town meetings, demanding answers and protection. Families began traveling in groups, refusing to stop at isolated inns. The shock rippled outward, touching communities across Kansas and beyond. Newspapers printed sketches of the family based on recollection, their faces rendered in rough ink lines that invited both fascination and fear. The authorities kept lists of names, cross-referencing missing persons with the remains found near the Bender farm. Each discovery deepened the mystery rather than solved it. The prairie, once a symbol of promise, now carried the weight of dread. As weeks turned into months, theories multiplied. Some believed the Benders had split up, assuming new identities in distant towns. Others were certain vigilantes had already found and executed them, burying the truth as deeply as the victims they avenged. Lawmen chased rumors from Missouri to Texas, but every lead dissolved into hearsay. The case drew national attention, with newspapers branding the family as America's first group of serial killers. Illustrations showed the inn as a house of death, its red curtain forever associated with betrayal. Yet official records remained thin. Without photographs or reliable witnesses, the investigation faltered. Rewards were posted, confessions fabricated, and imposters arrested, but none could prove genuine. The frontier's vastness worked against justice. There were too many places to disappear. Each retelling added new details, some plausible, others pure invention, until fact and folklore merged. For the people of Kansas, the story became a warning about trust, isolation, and the darkness that could hide behind a neighbor's smile. The authorities eventually closed their files, but the public never did. The unanswered questions hung in the air like dust after a long ride. In the decades that followed, the Bender homestead fell to ruin, its timbers reclaimed by weather and grass. Travelers would still stop at the site, some out of curiosity, others to leave small tokens or prayers for the dead. The case entered American folklore, retold in dime novels, and whispered around campfires as both cautionary tale and ghost story. For historians, it remained a puzzle, a rare instance where an entire family vanished, leaving behind undeniable evidence of murder, yet no trace of their fate. The victims, though unnamed in most records, represented the countless who risked the open road in search of new beginnings. Their loss reminded settlers of the fragile line separating safety from danger in a land still being tamed. Museums later displayed artifacts said to come from the Bender farm: rusted tools, fragments of dishes, and faded newspaper clippings. Each item carried the chill of uncertainty. Even now, more than a century later, the story endures because it never truly ended. Somewhere between fact and legend, the memory of that small Kansas cabin continues to haunt the edges of America's past, a silent reminder of how quickly trust can turn to terror on the frontier.